Thanks for joining today's session. We're very excited to be here talking about data-driven marketing with AI and a custom solution we have built with Reckitt to answer some of their business needs. So to start, I would like to introduce ourselves. I'm here today with Guilherme Amaral. He's a global digital transformation manager for Reckitt, and he is leading the precision and data-driven marketing transformation for the company. And I'm Manuel Mesa. I'm a senior data consultant for Artefact. I have experience driving digital and data marketing strategies with CPG companies such as Reckitt, and have been part of the team developing and deploying this custom tool for Reckitt, which we'll be discussing today. What do we do? At Artefact, we transform data into value and business impact, and we're part of a new generation of data services companies which are focused on data consulting and digital marketing. And Reckitt is one of the world's largest CPG companies. They are the producers of health, nutrition, and hygiene products, which you may all have at home or have bought at some point. Products such as Vanish, Finish, Lysol, Durex, Gaviscon, and Enfamil. So to start today's conversation, I wanted to set the context as to what is digital data-driven marketing and why is it important. As you may all know, there are different ways to approach digital marketing. On one hand, we have assumption-based marketing. This is when companies build digital campaign personalization based on external factors. So we have things such as surveys, brand knowledge, demographics, consumption, and market statistics. This is usually what the majority of companies do and what is covered as part of the regular brand strategy anywhere. Now, on the other hand, you have data-driven marketing. This is when companies are building the digital campaign personalization based on individual customer data. This is, of course, to gain a better view into customers' motivations, preferences, and behaviors. Here, we're using all types of data. We have first-party data, such as website data, transactional data, CRM. We have second-party data, for example, Amazon, for example, Walmart. And then we have third-party data, for example, ONS data, which is statistical national data, or open source data. Now, here is where most of the untapped opportunity relies for brands. Essentially, when you use data-driven marketing, you are optimizing your marketing channel performance, you're making your customer journey better, and at the end, you're enabling the company to achieve better results. Of course, the hallmark of any digital marketer is to be able to deliver the right message at the right time in the right moment. And there's no question that people have preferences, and this preference, of course, guide their decisions and their thinking. And companies that are able to cater to those preferences have a far more better chance of converting those prospects into actual customers than the rest. So in 2018, BCG did a digital marketing maturity study with Google. Essentially, this study found that there are different levels of maturity among the marketing organizations, and they're normally around 4 levels. You have nascent, where companies normally are using simple campaigns-based execution, so they're mainly using external data. You have emerging, where there's some use of own data in the automated buying. You have connected, where mostly all of the data is integrated and is activated across channels. And then you have multi-moment, where this is very advanced, where companies have dynamic customer journeys, always aligned towards business outcomes. Now, from the 200 companies on this survey, 90% of them were found to be in emerging and connecting, meaning that there's a huge opportunity for companies to actually make the full transformation. So this study essentially says marketers need technologies to be able to navigate through this maturity curve. They need tools that enable them to collect and manage data responsibly. They need tools to help them assemble the data, and they need tools that are able to connect these sort of initiatives to actual business results. So BCG prioritized a set of digital success factors, technical digital success factors, which are listed here, which are connected data, automation and integrated tech, and actionable measurement. They essentially said the application of machine learning-based technology made a huge impact and a huge difference in terms of bringing efficiency and effectiveness for the companies. So for example, connected data. This is when companies have advanced audience targeting. They're using all of their data sources and are basing their audience targeting on this. We could see an improvement in cost per action for up to 27%. Automation and integrated tech. This is when there's automated bidding and creative optimization. They could see up to 44% in improvement in cost per action. And lastly, actionable measurement. This is when companies have multi-touch attribution modeling. Essentially, you're able to understand each touch points attribution, and you can achieve up to 6% in cost per action. Now, what we found is that, of course, companies need these advanced technologies to move towards the maturity in this maturity curve, but they need to have a huge technical and organizational structure in place, which we found many companies don't have. When we started to work with Reckitt, we found that they seem to struggle with some challenges that we found across other of our clients. So first, we saw, for example, it's very hard to translate marketing segmentation into addressable audiences. So this normally is because, as we said before, traditional marketing is using CMI data. Normally what happens is their marketing segmentation is translated manually into the DSP platforms, and it's very arbitrary. Second, there's a lack of systematic approach to hit the sweet spot between reach and precision. So brands are replicating what they normally do offline, online. This is making them waste money and lacking personalization. And when they do develop very sophisticated targeting strategies, they seem to be lacking the scale and significant volume at the same time. Now, third, cookieless world. As we all know, third-party cookies are depreciating, and this means companies need to rely a lot on first-party data. Many companies don't have the tools or know how to do this. Fourth is the complexity of tools and variety of data. It seems to be that most of the data is very fragmented, very siloed, and there doesn't seem to be a clear way as to how to put them all into one space for modeling. And lastly, and as I said before, is greater audiences often get left out due to lack of measurement on actual sales. So there doesn't seem to be a fast and reliable way to have attribution models in place for the companies. So to address these challenges, we conceptualized and built an in-house solution in hand with Reckitt that is called the Audience Engine, and it's a tool that powers personalized digital marketing campaigns by building, sharing, measuring, and optimizing audiences from first, second, and third party. This tool is essentially consolidating everything under one system, an audience management system. And the tool essentially focuses on four things. First, on context and learnings rather on retargeting people. So every time the audience engine is activated on a campaign, we're always making sure there's a feedback loop and the business understands the learnings to be able to make better decisions. But the audience engine is also privacy by design. We are future-proof to changes in the marketing ecosystem. So for example, the cookieless world. Second, we combine data and intelligence. So all of the data is on Google Cloud. And as per campaign's objective, we're able to combine different data sources depending on the use case, depending on what the brand wants. And lastly, and most importantly, it's unbiased. So the machine learns from the data. We're not inputting anything into the machine, any human interpretation into the machine. Third, touchless integration with your campaigns. So it is fully integrated into the operating model. It can be integrated into any buying platform. We have reach and relevance at the same time, and it's scalable across brands, campaigns, or markets. And lastly is measurement. With the audience engine, we're able to do A/B testing to find sales uplifts. So this allows for budget optimization, identifying the attribution of media spend. You have fast access to data, and most importantly, you have a full understanding of the long-term impact of media activation on your sales. So actually, me as a consultant and being part of this project, we have been working with Reckitt for 1.5 years, and it has been very, very interesting for me to work with the actual local markets in the day-to-day operations and with the leading team of Reckitt, such as Guy. And so I want him to sort of walk us a bit through the whole experience around the transformation, around deploying the audience engine, building it, and also some of the results that we have achieved. So Guy, hello. Can you tell us a bit about Reckitt's digital transformation? I guess what motivated this transformation and what does it consist of?
Good afternoon, Manu, and everybody in the audience. I think that the first thing to say is, as a consumer company, we need to understand consumers. And we realized a couple of years ago that we were not doing an excellent job, maybe not even a very good job in doing that. Without having proper data and understanding and influencing the touch points we have with consumers, we just can't do that. But to be able to have these touch points with consumers and understand what they mean, understand consumers better, create something that in the company we call consumer intimacy or a relationship. We needed to do much more than just implement the audience engine, which is one of the key solutions we have. The whole digital transformation program, the precision marketing or data-driven marketing program in the company really consisted of building centers of excellence in a few countries that would run digital campaigns in the best possible way. So basically, to simplify, we created 8 hubs across the world with 7 new roles in each of these hubs and hired most of these people from outside. We defined their roles as part of the transformation, their levels of seniority, their ways of working, and everything else that was needed. So this team was trained to run campaigns for the first time. And that's when we insert the audience engine in the context, because we wanted the audiences being executed in all of these campaigns to have the best performance possible. And in the beginning, let's say, I would say the audience engine was even born before the last phase of this transformation started, right? So we really had to insert it in the context and prove its value rather than build it together and just, it's already done or it's already proven. No, it was really an effort building brick by brick to prove its value and have the results that we're going to talk about today, Manu.
Okay. And where is Reckitt in terms of precision marketing? Where do you see maybe the company in terms of the maturity I was discussing a few minutes before?
I'm definitely not to the right. So I think I would like to believe I was probably at the very left a couple of years ago. And that's also what triggered all this internal change. And I would like to believe we're between the two. Depends on the process, right? The solution that we have, the data as well, between connected and emergent there somewhere. But some things have definitely improved. So we have defined our tech stack. We have defined our ambitions in terms of audiences and measurement capabilities to be internal. And that is a very important call, because we could have been working with companies, external companies, developing something that was theirs. But no, we chose to work with Artefact because you guys helped us build something for us, which is part of the value we see in this partnership, right? So not only initiating, guiding, but adding value to every single conversation that we have from a solution standpoint, but also building something for Reckitt, owned by Reckitt in the end of the day. I think from a data standpoint, we are very much, it depends on the business unit of Reckitt, to be honest with you. But if I speak about where this digital transformation started, it was in the hygiene business unit. We're very much behind where we want to be. A lot of the data we used in the engine is coming from our brand websites. We, in some cases, don't have a website. You remember that some of the examples you've worked on, Manu. In other cases, we had a website, but the content was not updated with frequency, which was damaging our Google rankings and why consumers would come after us at the end of the day. So the exchange of value for the consumer is something we're still working on. Another data source eventually is going to be our CRM programs. And I would say there we're very much in hygiene, very much starting up. I guess this positions us, like I said, a little bit in the middle. Some things more to the right, some things more to the left, but still a long way to go.
All right. So I think now maybe you can tell us from your point of view, what is the audience engine?
So I guess this is, we can pull a slide now. I guess I asked you to pull a slide on the screen now, if we can do that so the audience can see this. So if I had to tell you one slide, this is it, right? So the audience engine, first of all, centralizes data. We have first-party data coming mostly from the websites, as I just mentioned, and that is consumer behavior. We can use this data to calculate the likelihood or propensity of a consumer performing a specific action on a website, and that could be clicking on a buy now button, but it could also be registering on our CRM program, right? So as we used the audience engine in the USA last year, specifically for that, we wanted to find consumers that were willing to sign up for this value exchange between ourselves and them. So they would sign up for our CRM program. And we were out of stocks of Lysol, right, in the US for a few months because of COVID. So that was one of the ways of keeping consumers informed and engaged while we were not stopping our media. I would say first party for PII data is still not something we are touching upon, but something that we are discussing on how to improve, which means this as a product is very much focused on upper funnel marketing, and that is people that are not aware or just aware of your products and their needs. Second party data, we have a couple of companies there. Oxwash is a startup. It is something that we are just starting, right, to work on using data to, again, test performance of audiences for specific brands. Carrefour is a partnership we're looking for. It's not something that's still being done, but I know you guys in Artefact work very much hand in hand with Carrefour already. Third-party data is going to be very much dependent on the market you are at. So if we're talking about GDPR countries, you have a lot more restrictions than a few other countries. And of course, we always respect that. But doesn't mean you cannot use open source data. So you have the last box there, the Office for National Statistics in UK. And in one of the tests, we were using water hardness levels given by that organization, combined with some other data sources to test audience performance in the company. That's something we did. In the US, we are working with piloting data that we can acquire. So as an example, we could be talking about Oracle Data Cloud here. But really, again, depending on the availability of this data and the willingness of spending money to acquire some of this data that is not free. It's important to say that every time we're talking the data coming in, right, but every time we build an audience, we don't tell the business, go ahead and use this audience at full scale. What we do is we tell them to test. So create a test campaign where you can exactly tell the performance of this audience versus whatever you are executing currently. I think it's nice to say, Manu, that 100% of the time so far, after 45 campaigns, we have performed, our audience engine audiences have performed better in terms of efficiency, costs of acquisition, and also effectiveness, driving sales, than the other audiences that we were doing before. Doesn't mean it's the best and end state solution there will ever be, but it's definitely much better than what we were doing before. If we go to the middle column, a few things happening there, right? So audience building depends on the data you have, but also on the business objective of your campaign. So currently in the engine, we have 4 ways of building audiences, 4 different algorithms, and we're testing more algorithms depending on the business need and, again, the data that we have available. I mentioned one of the examples, propensity modeling is one of them, and understanding consumer likelihood of performing a specific action. Audience integration is very linked to the right side of the slide. I will talk about that in a second, but it just means we build something that, to your point in the beginning of the session, we're producing audiences that have to be buyable. So it doesn't matter if I produce an insight if I cannot purchase the people that are linked to that insight exactly. So what we're doing is building something in a way that we can send our audiences, even if they are small audiences, they are seed audiences, we call them. We plant them in the media buying platforms, and we use the media buying platform to find lookalikes and drive the right scale that we need and the right relevance as well that we can see from the performance of the audiences so far. And audience insights is linked to a couple of things. The first is who is our primary user of the engine, right? So it is these centers of excellence that we built and the people making decisions on what audiences will be executed in each campaign. So we need to create, and we're still creating some of it, right? The interfaces for these people to quickly understand what's going on and start creating history of the campaigns that were already performed, which can drive other types of insights. So a type of audience tends to work better with a specific brand or in a specific location, for example. The other piece is on democratizing the data, the performance data, but also the insights audience-wise. And that is not something we did already, but it's in the roadmap for us to give access to this data to marketeers in general, also the people in IT working very closely with marketing and in media and in CMI, consumer market insights. Yeah. In the right part of the slide, it has some platforms there which we are integrating or have integrated the audience engine with already. I guess what I would say is some of them are always going to be standard, right? So you're probably very often running media on DV360 and Facebook as an example. But other local platforms integrations may be needed. So in the US, we built an integration with MediaMath. And in Russia, we built an integration with MyTarget. So that really depends on what type of integration is available, platform by platform, and how we can execute that in a fast way. So, because usually these needs on platform, they come from the campaign you want to execute this into. So what I mean by that is you want to execute a campaign in Russia. So you will find out that that campaign specifically, the first time you're going to Russia, you need to integrate your engine to different types of media buying platforms. And that is when you understand what they have an API, or is there some other way of connecting with this platform and how fast you can build it so it's served by the engine as well. So I guess this, I don't know if this was too short, but this is what I would say in one slide is the audience engine. Thank you for this slide.
No, that's it. Yeah, I think also something that I wanted to add is that what I think is interesting also about the engine is that once all this process happens, you activate a campaign, you get the results, we're always able to have like a feedback loop into the annual commercial strategy of the company, like which, as Guy said, which sort of audiences are going to be prioritized by each brand. So based on the insights we get from the audiences activated from the engine, we're also working with the whole strategy team into giving them insights as to this audiences perform best. We found out that this sort of tests were best. And so they're able to develop a better strategy, and we're making that constant feedback loop, which I think is very interesting as well.
Absolutely.
So I guess the next question would be, where are we with the audience engine? And if you could give us an example of how it works.
So we are, first of all, the audience engine is a product, which means we will keep working on it. We will keep investing on new data sources, new algorithms, new integrations to make sure it's always relevant. And we want to monitor the performance of these audiences and try to drive costs down and performance up, I would say, every quarter at least. Yeah. So that is something. It is always going to change. Where we are now is we have 11 markets in the hygiene business unit that have the solution implemented. I mentioned this number before, 45 campaigns were supported by the engine. Over 80 audiences came out of our algorithms, and 100% of the time we had better performance versus what was being executed before. I guess this is really, it gives the dimension of where we are. I think we are to some extent scaled, but there's still more brands and markets to cover until the end of the year, and probably next year as we extend this capability to other business units as well. From the example question, I think I always like to bring one example. So we started the engine in the UK with a brand called Airwick. Yeah, so hopefully many of you have bought it. Airwick makes different types of products that focus on making an experience towards your scents, right? So you will smell, usually related to smell, good smell, and things like that, odor elimination and things like that. So we first ran the algorithms to try to understand what consumers were going to our websites on Airwick. And usually, traditionally, we looked at audiences from demographic perspective. It could be from a life stage perspective, as something we did at some time, we still do. And the insight that came from the engine was, you know what? There's a group of consumers here that they're not necessarily demographically divided. They could be interested in just any segment of your brand. It could be candle, it could be car, it could be aerosols, and they are very much not part of one life stage. They could be all across the life stages, but they are always and consistently interested in fragrances. So articles about fragrances, types of fragrances, the smell, right? So there were many signals that we collected, and the engine taught us to look at these audiences in a different perspective. So we baptized this, you were part of the process, we baptized these as the fragrance freaks, just because they're not freaks, no, they're very nice people, but they love fragrances more than anybody else that we were looking into. So this is a type of how the engine works to drive insights out of the box versus a traditional problem you had, because the machine learning is there.
All right. Yeah. I think, well, the next question would be, as I said before, I think companies usually like struggle in terms of like the whole transformation. What sort of obstacles have you encountered until now when deploying the audience engine in the markets?
I guess the main obstacle was in the very beginning when we wanted to pilot the audience engine. We started telling the marketing teams and the media teams, like, okay, we want to build audiences on machine learning, but we want to use website data. And we started hearing things like, you know what, there's not a lot of people going to our website, right? So maybe you have a few thousand people and you have millions of people in this country. How's that even relevant? And things like, your website is not exactly great. So are you sure you want to use people going there because maybe it's outdated or content's not complete? And our answer was, well, can we test? Can you test? Can we test that once and see what happens? And since the very first test, we saw the results were already coming and there was no reason to stop. So I guess this startup mentality, right? Let's test fast, and if we fail fast, but we didn't fail. And here is where we are today. I think that was the biggest challenge for the audience engine.
Okay. So I just have two more questions. It would be, I guess, how has it been developing this whole transformation and the solution at the same time as transforming the teams and the whole processes, the operations, like doing both things at the same time?
I guess the main thing is they're very much apart, although the engine is a part of the transformation. The management of the transformation is much broader, and has to be, the sponsorship has to come from the very much highest level in the organization. Otherwise, people at all levels will start questioning why you're doing and what you're doing. So that is the first thing. And then as you build a product internally, there's just, you cannot do that without having all the proper stakeholders aligned and updated. So I guess we really built a strong product team on one side that was driven by the business. It was not technically driven. So although IT was leading the conversation and the product, everything, IT was not doing traditional IT job. We were really trying to understand what's the learning agenda of your campaign, What do you want to, what's your business objective? Is it market share or is it penetration or something else? And how the solution best fit that. So that making sure the media teams, the marketing teams were trained, all the data engineering team that is in the back end of the solution needs to work as well. So everybody had to be on the same page and is still to this day working together after a year and a half. While the program management was making sure these results were coming and sponsoring the scale up of solutions as the audience engine.
Okay. And then finally, what results have you achieved up till now with the audience engine in terms of, I guess, everything, effectiveness, efficiency?
I appreciate, conscious of time, right? We're kind of on time. I want to take the questions as well. I will try to be brief here and say we have gotten to incremental ROI that was measured by us of 0.56. So whatever our baseline was, we did an incremental ROI to that, given the audiences coming from the engine.
All right. Thank you, Guy. So I think there's some questions. The first one is, it looks like you've come a long way on your journey. How did you decide what to tackle first?
That's a very good question. We decided with help. So we had companies that we trust. Artefact was one of them. So before the big round of this transformation started, we worked a lot with Artefact to understand that audience and measurement capabilities were things we should prioritize. And happily, that got confirmed after the company decided to hire another external consultant to work on top. So Artefact has been key on the product delivery and creation and everything, but we also worked with the Boston Consulting Group on defining what the transformation was going to look like. When we were talking to them and understanding our pains and our objectives, we were able to frame the capabilities or the types of capabilities that we needed to focus on the most. As I already said, audience and measurement were a part of that, but MarTech was also a part of that. Consumer touchpoint was a part of that. So it came from learning from outside eventually. We didn't have the expertise.
Okay. And then the last question is, how did you address the big shift in consumer behavior during COVID, causing data anomalies and eventually breaking the model? Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. In which, as many companies did, we try to model COVID as a part of the models in many cases, especially in measurement, right? I guess the best answer I can give to that is we tested the measurement model before COVID with before COVID data. And we got to a level of trust that we say, okay, we're comfortable with this. So let's introduce a new variable with COVID and see if we're still comfortable. And to this point, we are comfortable with most scenarios. Of course, there's always going to be something that you say, that doesn't really square with what we expected. But it is what it is, right? It's the price you pay. And even if you purchase something outside, you're going to 100% trust blindly what another company is selling you. It's not an easy conversation.
Yeah, and I would like to add that we're currently actually, as Guy said, modeling transactional data as part of the audience engine. And we've also tried to model it without COVID impact, with COVID impact, and trying to see how, for example, transactions change, buying patterns change. And this has been a huge part of that specific capability, enabling the brands to know, okay, have people stopped buying on actual stores? Has it moved to everything online? So it's been very interesting as well to be able to, I guess, see the whole change in consumer behavior with COVID.
Very good.
All right. So I think that's all for today. Thank you, Guy, so much for answering all our questions and walking us through the audience engine. I hope everyone enjoyed this session. And if you guys have any questions, you can, of course, contact either of us through LinkedIn.
Thank you very much.